Welcome to the RT Development Podcast. I'm Rossignol, I'm your host. Today, I'm flying solo. I'm going to cover something I think is really important, especially this time of year, fall and fall training. I got a couple bullet points written down, and I'm excited to go over them, share them with you, and hopefully help you develop a plan for a great fall and set you up for even amazing spring. Now, I think this time of year is a pretty unique time because the fall is the only time of year, and even if you are playing fall ball, but most fall balls should be done sometime in October. The fall winter is the one time throughout a let's say baseball calendar year where you're gonna have the longest window to actually train and focus on something without having the interruption of having to play games. The spring, the winter, and then early fall, you're trying to compete with playing and also training at the same time and trying to make some real changes while also trying to compete, and that makes it really challenging. So during this time, you have a real special opportunity to take advantage of and use this long window that it's the only window you have with a 4 to 6 month time frame where you can really get after it, figure out what exactly you need and where you're at, and then develop a plan to set you up for success come whenever your spring season starts. For a college guy, it's a little bit earlier, February, and or a high school guy, you have till March. And so this time is a really unique time. It's why, like the pro guys, they come in October and they have all the way till February. They have that long period of time where they can just really focus on training, and that's why these guys make the gains that they do during that time. So for you, this is your time, for especially if you're a high school athlete or younger, to take this opportunity and make the most of it. I think the biggest problem I see with guys during this time is they kind of go through the time without actually having a plan. And so the beginning of this is, figuring out, having an assessment, figure out a plan that's going to put a real laid out from and working backwards. We like to what we call reverse engineer. So let's say if you're starting, or you need to be ready to go come March, this is what we're going to do: lay out each month to help put you in a position to succeed. So you're not getting blindsided. We see guys who don't have a plan, like they're just kind of not really throwing bullpens. They're not in that phase yet, and then they want to just start doing live at bats in November. And not just, if you're doing that kind of stuff without a plan, you're not going to be setting yourself up for success. So I'm going to get into 4 key bullet points that I have written down for today that I think is going to help you figure out what you need, where you're at, and help you set up a plan for the fall/winter. So my first one I have here, number 1, strength. And strength is the foundation of everything. Without strength, you're not going to be able to produce force. You're not going to be able to get faster. You're not going to be able to hit the ball harder or throw or increase velocity. It at the end of the day is the number one thing that you have to have. Now, strength is going to be relative to everyone. Everyone's going to have a different amount of strength that they need. Some guys, they're going to be real guys that are more explosive and more that twitchier guy. They just need enough strength. Guys more like force long guys who are going to put a lot of force in the ground for a long period of time, yeah, they're going to be a little bit stronger, but still at the end of the day, strength is going to be relative. So with that, here's a couple things that if you focus on strength, you're going to improve. Force output. Force output is going to be the number one thing in terms of increasing velocity, increasing speed, increasing power at the plate. You have to increase force output to increase those numbers, and with that, it's going to help you just overall performance. And to do that, it starts with getting stronger. So obviously, getting stronger with the lower half. We have all of our compound movements that, especially here at RT, that we're prioritizing. But it's really figuring out where you need to get stronger and then hammering that during this time. And if you're doing this right, the first 1 to 2 months is you're really focusing on that strength. And then as you get closer to January, end of December, January, and even February is now we're trying to learn to use that strength and put it in the ground quicker. It's great to be really, really strong, but if you can't transfer it and move it fast, it doesn't really matter. So if you have this timetable where you can really work on that first month, 2 months, and everyone's going to be a little bit different. It depends on you, where you're at. It's basically finding your lowest hanging fruit there and then attacking that. But the goal is at the end of the day is, yeah, strength is important, but just lifting 600 pounds is great. But if you can't transfer it, then it doesn't matter. So that's why we got to lay this out and then get strong and then learn to use that strength. And we'll get more into that as we get to our later bullet points. Also, strength improves movement quality, and this could be number one, but a lot of guys struggle to get into certain positions. They struggle to move the way, especially like when we're looking at the skill side, we want them to move. And so if they don't have the strength base, it doesn't really matter how much we want them to get into certain positions. They're just not going to be able to hold those positions to do what they want to do and perform the way they want to perform. So that's a huge piece is movement quality, the ability to move better. If you get stronger, you're more stable, you're able to get into better positions, and then the result, you're going to be able to perform better, get into better positions on the mound and at the plate. Another big thing is mobility. Like, I think everyone wants to just stretch, or do these mobility things. But if you start strength training through larger ranges of motion, you're going to improve mobility. And with that, now that mobility that you are hoping to gain is actually mobility that you can use. We see guys in here all the time who they want to stretch, and now they have this new range of motion, but they don't have control or stability through that range of motion. And so especially like on the pitching side, sure, we want guys to be able to like get into these deeper positions, let's say, and this is just lack of a better way to explain it. Let's say we have a guy who wants to get into deep scap retraction, but if they don't have the strength and stability to get back there, or they can get back there, but they don't have the strength and stability to really use that and create that rubber band effect or that slingshot effect that we're trying to get when it comes to that scap retraction, then it's just going to be like almost like a dead rubber band pulling at the end and just no elasticity to it. So yeah, mobility is important, but without the strength and stability to control it and use that new range of the motion, it's really nothing that's going to be beneficial to you. And then strength, and I touched on it a little bit with the force, but if you want to get faster, you want to be able to jump higher, move side to side better, you got to be stronger first, right? You don't want to be, let's say, lateral movement, you're collapsing because you don't have the strength to put your foot in the ground and say change direction. Same thing as lateral movement when you are on the mound or at the plate. We got to have the strength to be able to move and perform these athletic movements that we're trying to create. So if we don't have that strength, we don't have that stability, you're not going to be able to show it. And you're also not going to get faster. You're not going to be able to jump higher. And now that's not to say I think you hear these things, to focus on jumping, you need to be able to squat 2 times body weight. That's not true either. I would say in our case, that's not where we have our, let's say, standards. It's more just like to be able to put more force in the ground, you got to get stronger. And by putting more force in the ground and putting it in quickly, that's how you're going to be able to jump and sprint and do these things at a higher rate and be able to show that athletic ability. And at the end of the day, your number one goal is to be more athletic, and strength is going to be a huge piece of that. So strength is number one. I think for guys, if they don't have strength, then really when you're prioritizing these other things, you're kind of skipping a lot of steps. We get guys in here who want to focus on, let's say, pitch design or swing design stuff and things like that. But if they don't have the strength to have the stability and get into these positions because they're not able just to control their body, then it's not really going to be benefiting you as an athlete to work on those things without having the strength. Sure, we want to work on movement quality and things like that, but if you focus on one thing and then you add in this new strength, a month from now you could be moving totally different, and so it's not going to carry on to the as you make these steps forward. So number one thing is really hammering the strength side, remembering that is your key. It's the foundation. It's what's going to give you, just like any when you build a house, you're not going to build a house without building the foundation first. You could do all this stuff on the top half, the arm action, all this stuff, but if you don't have that foundation, it's nothing. So strength is your foundation, and that is number one. Number two, I think especially in this time of year, I have body composition or size. Number one, when you show up or when a scout or a recruiter or college, when they show up to the field, the number one thing they look at is how you look, the body test, right? Or the eye test. Do you pass the eye test? And so it is what it is. You got to pass the eye test. Do you fill out the uniform? And so with that, we get a lot of guys who who are 150 pounds and they want to throw harder. They want to do these things, but if you're not taking the step to try to gain weight, and which is going to help you put on muscle, which is also going to contribute to number one is getting stronger. Like you got to put on weight. It's got to be a priority. And right now, when you have that 4 to 6 months, you have an opportunity to do that. And saying I can't gain weight it's just not true. And there's plenty of ways that we can help you figure that out. But at the end of the day, the first step with eating is just being committed to it. Plan out your meals. Okay, let's say you need to eat a certain amount of calories. Work backwards. No, okay, I need to eat 3,000 calories. I'm going to eat 6 times a day, and I need this many calories, 500 calories in each meal. And if you're trying to gain weight and you're at 150 pounds, it's going to be more, but just using that from a mass standpoint, like just break it down and have your meals planned out. The other big thing we see with our guys and a lot of guys that we hear from is they want to gain weight, but they're not getting up in time to get breakfast, or I can't eat breakfast. If you're really committed, you shouldn't be missing breakfast. Like that's number one. Your breakfast is going to set you up for success the rest of the day. One, when you eat that breakfast, you're learning just to prioritize what you need. Doing just the discipline of it is one. Two, I think for a lot of guys, when they eat that breakfast, then it also makes them more hungry throughout the day and they get hungry faster. And I think when you are trying to gain weight, I mean, there has to be some time when you eat, even when you don't want to. It's just part of it. If you're trying to gain weight, you got to do it. But make sure the more you eat, the more your body is going to be craving food. And so getting into a routine of setting that out, knowing how many calories you need, breaking it up into a certain amount of meals, I've found for guys to be the easiest and help guys actually be able to put on weight because they know what they're actually getting in their body. Another thing is, and I think for the younger guys it can be harder, but is track it for 1 or 2 days. See how many calories you're actually eating. A lot of guys think they're eating a lot more than they actually are. And so if you need to gain weight, there's no guessing. You need to know what you need, what you're trying to get to, what you're trying to do, and plan that out and break it down. Make it simple. The more simple you make it for yourself, the easier it is to eat those higher calorie or hit those higher calorie goals. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. And then if you're training really hard and you're working out for hours with training, skill work, and everything else, like you got to also factor that in. That's going to be more calories that you got to get into your body. And this isn't to be like a nutrition podcast. It's more just if you're 150 pounds and you have these big goals to perform or get recruited or seen by scouts, like that's number one. Gain weight, get bigger, get stronger. And so saying you don't have time, saying I can't gain weight, that's just not a acceptable answer, to be honest, right? And you need to be honest with yourself. And so now here where I think is really important during this time is like, let's say you need to gain 15 pounds, break it up by 4, 5, 6 months, and that should be a really easy way to do that. If you're trying to gain 15 pounds over, let's say 4 months, you got 16 weeks, you're gaining less than a pound a week. And and then if you're at 6 months, it's even less. And so if you're not being able to gain half a pound a week, it comes down to just being committed to it and not just having these goals. It's actually like being disciplined to your goals. And we see guys, I think with nutrition all the time is they're motivated for a week, 2 weeks, but to have that discipline to do it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and longer, that's where one, you're going to see real carryover, real weight that sticks, and also see it carry over to performance. We just finished our college summer program, and we see guys gain 10, 15 pounds. In some instances, we've had guys gain a little bit more, and that's over a 10-week period. And it just comes down to them being consistent. We try to help them set out like plans and goals of what they need to do. They come, and then when they're here training, they're bringing food with them. Typically one meal and maybe a snack or a protein shake. Some guys will bring two. Plus they've had breakfast, and now they're really attacking their day, attacking their goal, and they're setting themselves up for performance. And with that, even if you're not trying to gain weight, this still has a huge effect on your performance overall. I think we see guys all the time who are like, don't even really realize how best not necessarily not feel like malnutrition, but that's probably not the right word. They're just not feeling themselves for performance, even if they're just trying to stay at the same weight that they're at. They're not eating breakfast before they come in to train, or specifically skill work. They're not hydrating enough. They're not eating good meals the night before. These little things add up even if you're not trying to gain weight. And we see it with guys. That's where, especially the high school level, is these guys have these huge fluctuations in velocity all the time. And a lot of it comes down to the nutrition and hydration side. They're not consistent with that. So be consistent with your nutrition. And especially, also, like I said, during this time frame, you have that 4 to 6 months and you're trying to gain weight, this is the time you should be able to do it. You lay out how much weight you're trying to gain over that period, and then break it down by weeks. And then from there, you know how much you need to gain each week. And like I said, if you're trying to gain 15 pounds over 16 weeks, you should be able to gain a half a pound or a little more than a half a pound a week. And then little less than a pound a week. And then right there, you're right at around 15, 16 pounds when it comes time to be at your goal. And with that, when we see guys trying to gain weight, it's the longevity game. It's not instant, I gained 5 pounds today and then I'm 5 pounds less in a week. No, it's just like little by little. And if you're consistent with your nutrition, you make sure you're not missing meals, you're not missing your calories, and doing that consistently, that's where it's going to be, where it's actually sustainable and you're able to carry that into performance. And so it's not about, I ate really a ton of food this week and I gained 5 pounds, but then next week it's back to what you were eating before. Can you do it for the long haul? And this is where the discipline and the kind of planning comes into place, and knowing where your goals are. So, and this, another big thing is for us, we talked about it on the strength side. If you're 150 pounds and throwing 90, you're putting yourself at more risk. That's more torque on your body. And so for us to keep chasing velocity is going to actually could be detrimental. Like you should be gaining that we want to keep cleaning up how you move. But for you to keep chasing velocity, but being 150, 160 pounds, it's not going to be beneficial to you and your body. Go gain that weight, plus start moving better on the mountain with stuff that you're doing and the strength side, and that's how you want to increase the velocity or the power. But selling out for that at the 150, and that's just kind of the random number I guess I've come up with today, but it is. When you're underweight and chasing those things, you're chasing the wrong things at the wrong time. So I would say kind of reverse it. Add weight, keep getting stronger, and then you're still going to be working on moving better during that time. But then that velocity should increase, and then it's actually sustainable. It's not as much torque on your body, and you're putting yourself in a better position for the long-term success. Max velo and maxing out at those lower body weights is just not gonna, the stress and the stuff that you're doing to get there is not gonna be sustainable. Let's say you're a starter and you're trying to hold, this is kind of a different conversation, but if you're trying to hold it over 5, 6, 7 innings, you're not gonna be able to. So I would say make sure on the nutrition side, step 1, know how many calories you need. 2, don't skip breakfast. 3, plan out your meals, plan out your day. Are you gonna have it gonna be 100%? No. Like we talk to our guys, especially like on the putting good stuff in their body. 80-20. Like we don't expect guys to be 100%. And so if you're like, oh, I'm not 100%, so I'm not gonna be able to do it, you're gonna set yourself up for failure. Instead, try to like have an 80-20. Know what you need to do, and if you're with that, as with anything, if you're consistent, that's how you're gonna see success in this. And remember, and we don't make the rules. It is what it is. The eye test is the first thing a scout, a recruiter, any of those guys see, and so got to pass the eye test. And is it gonna be everyone? No, but regardless, you should be wanting to get stronger. You should be wanting to make sure you're at a good body weight that's going to help you perform at your best. And a 6'1", 150 and a 6'1", 185, both throwing 90. Gained weight, and that guy who's throwing 90s can see that floor kind of start to go up, but that 185 is putting less stress on their arm, and it's going to be less effort. And so just remember that. The next piece, or number 3 on today's list, is skill performance. And obviously that's number 1 in terms of come September. Number 1 is you want to be able to perform when it comes to the field. And at the end of the day, none of this is important without being ready to perform. And I mean, that's not to say just for a healthier lifestyle, learning good habits, especially for the young kids that we have in here, like just learning to get stronger, have good habits with the strength and the nutrition side is going to help you long term. But for our guys who have these big aspirations of playing college baseball, professional baseball, be a big leaguer, things like that, the skill, being able to transfer this stuff to the field is important, right? And if you're getting stronger, you're putting on this weight, but it's not transferring, then it's not beneficial. So that's where having a plan in place, knowing, okay, I have 4 to 6 months, whatever that time frame is, knowing, okay, this, and like I talked about a little bit earlier, is reverse engineering. I think a lot of guys have somewhat of a plan, but they'll kind of go month to month. I think for us, we know, okay, we go, let's just say for our high schoolers in summer, February, let's say February tryouts, but some guys we have till March. And so, okay, breaking it down. So February, I need to be throwing in live at bats or like inner squads. So January, I'm going to be doing some higher intent pens, plus maybe some for guys that are ready for it in the right spot, pitch design. And then December, and maybe I'm starting to touch the slope, getting a feel. In November, could be that's part of your ramp up phase and potentially a velocity phase, for a lack of a better term, for the right guy. And just whatever it is, we have a plan backed up by a reverse engineer from when they need to be ready to where they're starting at. And a lot of that stuff we take into consideration is how many innings did they throw from this last season, from spring all the way through fall, or spring through summer for some guys that aren't playing in the fall. And we take that information and then we're like, okay, this guy didn't throw a lot, so maybe we can have him start a little bit earlier, push it a little bit more. Or then you have a guy who threw a ton, and it's like we're going to start a little bit later and be able to kind of reverse engineer from there. And we're probably not going to have as much time to take off and then we're gonna just ramp up and maybe not as aggressive, at least early on. With whatever it is, it's just having a plan and knowing where you need to be. Our minor leaguers who are starting to show up right now, we're gonna map when they need to be ready versus where and it's gonna be different for our big leaguers who are, they're playing an extra month they play a whole month compared to our minor leaguers, and then some of them are going to be in the playoffs. So then you're adding in that extra time frame of them throwing. So we have to account for that as we build in their plan. But then with that, their off season's getting shrunk because then they have to get to spring training earlier. So it's just with that, it's having a plan. And so going to that, it's okay, looking at video. What do they need to work on, and what are the lowest hanging fruits? And that's going to be the biggest thing with everything, or when it comes to your fall plan, is knowing your lowest hanging fruits and then attacking those instead of trying to spin your wheels and attack everything. If you attack those lowest hanging fruits, it's going to help you with typically across the board, right? It's not going to just be that one thing. So if, like we were talking about with the strength, if you get your lower body stronger, you're probably going to start moving, especially if strength is a key for you. Probably going to start moving better, and mobility is going to improve. Force production is going to go up, and then you're going to be able to get into better positions on the mound, and even at the plate, not just talk about the mound. But so those things, if you know what your lowest hanging fruit is across the board, then you're going to be able to hammer those. It could be, and on the mound, so it's figuring out and at the plate, like what's your lowest hanging fruit, and then we're going to build out a plan to help you with that, from your drill work, your prep work. It's doing stuff, especially early off season. We're going to be doing a little bit more time, spending more time on the movement side. For us, we use a lot of water bag drills, and that's help create stability in the positions we're trying to get into, create some stability, some awareness, body awareness, especially for our young guys. Like, body awareness is key, and this is a time for you to really learn your body and motor control, motor patterning, and things like that. And so you have a good progression over this period of time, and you can really use or take steps to help you progress and move forward. And so you're not trying to, like we said, just jump straight to the December into some live that your body wasn't ready for. It's having a plan, knowing when you need to be ready, and using these tools. And kind of like I said with the water ball, it's like we have progressions with this. Okay, first it's just like kind of building stability, then it's and body awareness, and then we kind of start with like smaller movements, and then we build on that and make bigger movements, getting closer to a full mound or throw or swing, and being able to control that water and feel where you're creating tension or feel yourself create tension at the right time. And then that stuff starts to carry over to the high intent work that you're doing, whether it be at the plate or on the mound. Like for us, a lot of guys during this time will be not necessarily. We leave it up to the player with a conversation from us and what they want to do. But especially, I would say this is more for our older guys. Like, do you want to put the ball down for a couple weeks, or do you want to just keep your arm moving but deloading? And so figuring out what's best for you. A lot of guys, especially our older guys, they don't want to put the ball down. They feel like they lose feel, and that's totally fine. I would say for a young guy, it probably is important to put the ball down at least for some point of time, but that's a conversation to have with the coach, and also, should be playing other sports. But getting back to the plan, it's like have a plan, knowing what you need, where you're at, and then having drills that you attack over a certain period of time so that you can really have everything laid out. And when it comes time for the bullpens and the lives and whatever else it is, you're ready to attack, and your body starts moving the way that you're trying to move, and it just kind of comes second nature. Like, you don't even have to think about it, and it just happens. And that's what happens when you have a plan and you're attacking certain things a certain way. And for us, especially with our older guys, our higher skill guys, we actually started getting them on the mound a little bit earlier, but not in terms of bullpen or anything with any intent, but just having them play catch on the slope later or earlier in the off season, and that definitely had a great carryover. And I think this is where, and kind of will lead into my next point on the recovery days is, but to stay with that one, like guys just getting feel for the slope, and I don't think that's valued enough. And I think for us early on, we were like, no, don't touch slope, don't touch slope. And I think over time we've started to change that a little bit. And I think it has had guys or helped guys get a better feel for the mound when they start to progress into the intensity and volume and that stuff. But it's really kind of making sure you know how to control yourself, be honest with yourself and the intensity that you're throwing at. It's like we want these guys to be really, really light on the mound just to have a feel for the slope, getting used to like feeling certain positions that we've been working on in the drill work and water ball, all that stuff. But making sure, I feel really good today, I'm going to push it a little bit. No, it's like that's point in the off season, and that's not what we're hoping for. And so it's just understanding, I've said it 100 times already, but understanding like having a plan, reverse engineering where you're at, and knowing what you need to do. And if you do that and you take that approach during this time, in 6 months, 4 months, 6 months, you're gonna be a different person. So with that, kind of like I said, this goes into my next point. Win the fall. See, guys have no plan on how they're throwing, and their throwing and lifting is all scheduled out. Like for us, our high days are our high days, our low days are our low days. The early part of the off season, we're pushing the weight room as our throwing's backed off, and then as we get closer to, lives, competition, things like that, we're reversing it. Our throwing takes or the volume goes up, the intensity goes up. That takes more of a priority, and the strength starts to be complementary. And at the end of the day, it is always complementary. It's just having periods, because at the end of the day, throwing or hit, and I'm kind of skipping hitting or leaving out hitting, but it's the same. Same thing with our guys. Like they start off with the tee. They start off, flips and tee, figure out some stuff that they need to do, and then they're not just going into straight live at bats or like high velo machines or things like that. No, they're trying to relearn patterns, get their body moving better, and just get themselves in a position so that they can create or learn these new movement patterns, and then take it easy to then moving up the intensity from there. So now kind of going back to the original thing here, or what I was about to say about throwing lighter, is knowing your recovery days. I think this is a huge piece with guys that don't have a plan. It's like, I feel really good today, I'm just going to go for it. Max long toss when I'm really early into my ramp up phase. And that's just going to, you might feel good that one day, but that's not going to set you up for success. Recovery days need to be recovery days. So for us, or especially early on, like a recovery day is 30 throws at 40 or like 50, 60%. No, it's just to keep your body moving. It's to create feel with your arm, create feel with your body. But if a lot of times guys, recovery days become their probably not high intensity, but medium days, because they don't understand their body, they don't understand their arm, they don't know how to control it. And so then a week or two of that, and then they go, as we get up into the higher intent, the velo days, it's just not there, and they're not able to recover, and their body's not ready for the demands of it, especially come, say, later in the off season when you're trying to do a recovery day on Thursday to be prepared for that Friday bullpen, and it's not recovery. You're not allowing yourself, 30 throws becomes 60 throws because I'm trying to feel this one thing out, or the intensity increases. And one thing we've done, especially with our college and pro guys, is we put them on a radar gun on recovery days and give them a number that they have to stick to, so that it also, when they have that radar gun, it gives them a little sense of like feel for their body and understand, okay, I moved at this intensity and this is the number, and they start to get a feel and have a better understanding of their arm and where they're at and what is going to what it really looks like. And so not letting your recovery days become your high intent days is a huge piece of it. And so I would say making sure you understand that and you're following that and have a plan that has that laid out. And so, like I was talking about the mound early off season, that's where we use the radar guns. Sorry, the radar guns to create that, and it gives them a feel and understand where they're supposed to be. And now they're not, throwing a certain number that's way too high, and then wonder why they're not recovering. So just make sure you have a plan there. You're following the steps in place, and your recovery is your recovery. At the end of the day, this is something I've learned and I didn't know. For me, it was go, throw, swing, whatever it was. And that's just something I didn't know. And when I was playing, the first two steps for me would have been huge pieces. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't spend enough, at least the right time in the weight room. I was definitely undersized in terms of weight. And it's not to talk about me, but like when I'm working with our guys and talking to our guys, it's like learn from my mistakes, like I try to make sure guys don't make the same mistakes I do. And then on the throwing side and swinging side, I had great people in my corner. I had great mentors and things like that. But I just kind of didn't have a plan, or I kind of went out and did my own stuff too much. And that's kind of that's what it came down to, is like I went and did my stuff with the guys that I worked with, and then I would go out and do my own stuff on top of that. And then I didn't set myself up for success because I wasn't recovering when I needed to recover, focusing on the things that I was just doing volume, or quantity, and not really focusing on the quality. And I would say for especially here, it's like quality over quantity. More isn't always better. I'd rather you have, if you're a hitter, I'd rather you have 30 really focused swings, or on the pitching side, it's like, let me have, and obviously there's building up and you got to build up and there's those phases, but like 15 or let's say playing catch, like 30 to 50 really quality throws is going to be better than just like 100 throws of not paying attention and really just no plan in place, right? Quality over quantity, focused reps, don't let reps go to waste. And we see that a lot, especially like if, I have time. No, you don't have as much time as you think. Realistically, if you look at the time frame, especially if you're a high school athlete, like you have 4 years, and that time goes really fast. And every year, your year goes down and down and down, and before you know it, you're a senior and you're graduating. So it's really finite limited time for you. And so take advantage of every rep, take advantage of the time, put in quality work, and have a plan in place that allows you to do that. Okay? So reverse engineer, have a plan. No, just kind of stay away from the randomness, especially when it comes to like your throwing schedule and things like that, and swinging schedule, and you're gonna be in a much better spot. To our fourth topic for today in the off season is sprinting. And sprinting is very underutilized, at least from what we've seen. Guys don't sprint enough. They don't sprint often enough, and the benefits of sprinting are huge, and they will carry over to everything you're trying to do. And we'll get into this a little bit more here in a second, but like if you want to throw harder, get faster. It teaches your body to move faster. You want to increase bat speed, just get faster. It's going to help you move faster, which is going to allow you then to rotate faster, and it's just going to create these teaching the body, sending signals to the body that you can move faster. And with that, it's not just randomly or just having no plan. It's like having a sprinting structure. For us right now, early off season, we're working on acceleration stuff, build up stuff. We're starting to work guys back into sprinting, especially if they're coming off a long season. And there's a plan in place of like where we want them sprinting wise come say February, March. So we have a plan in place and like kind of the build ups and things like that we're doing to get them ready. But, for our guys, we're we're um, we're sprinting 2 to 3 times a week and typically start with like two and then maybe like some sort of lower and medium intensity, whether it be like intervals and things like that on the third day. But as we get going into the later off season, we're going 2 to 3 times a week where we're sprinting close to more often 3 times a week for especially our position guys, and just gets their body moving faster. Nothing's producing more force, so it just really teaches them the force output, teaches them to move faster, and these are all huge pieces when it comes to the performance side. Whether it obviously sprinting, but also the throwing, the hitting, and all that stuff. So. And as a baseball player, I think we talked about it a little bit, how right now we're focusing on acceleration. Really, we very rarely do we get to top velocity when it comes to sprinting on a baseball field, because we're cutting, we're turning corners. It's all really short distances. 90 feet is going to be the longest, or not even if 90 feet from the plate is typically going to be the longest straight sprint that you're going to have. And so acceleration is going to be the main focus that we focus on. Your ability to get off, your ability to get moving quickly. That acceleration is what's going to translate to performance, and that ability to like put force in the ground really, really quickly. The most force you're going to put it into the ground is going to be those first 3 steps. It's like drive back and go. And so that stuff's going to translate. Now, with that doesn't mean we're not training top velocity and like max speed. We still do, because it just gives us that stimulus of moving faster, but it's not going to be at the same rate that we are as we're training the acceleration piece. So it's making sure I think for us, it's having a plan in place to know where you need to be, and then executing that plan on the sprint side. For us, 10 yards, every 10 yards, you're going to rest a minute. We see a lot of sprint work turn into conditioning. And so we're not giving our bodies enough rest in between each set to move as fast as possible. And so from there, it just turns into conditioning. If you want to get faster, you got to be moving at max speed. And to do that, you got to make sure the rest is in the right spot. So for every 10 yards for us, we're going to be resting a minute. 30 yards, 40 yards, our guys are going to be resting 3 to 5 minutes. And it might seem like a lot, but we want that max output that we're trying to create so that we get that carryover. Another big piece that I think is huge on the sprinting side, that why we see a lot of injuries early in the offseason, especially like quads, Achilles, hamstrings, those injuries, those soft tissue injuries, is guys don't sprint enough in the off season, and then they get to to tryouts and like early practices, early games, and they're starting to try to sprint and make these moves to cut, things like that, and their body's just not ready for it. There hasn't been this build up in place over time to get them in position for their hamstrings or whatever the soft tissue is to handle that load. And you're trying to go from a not like a movement that you haven't done a ton of to then trying to go max speed. And whether say a hitter trying to beat out a ball at first and hasn't sprinted at that capacity in a long time, that's where guys get in trouble. So focusing on sprinting, sprint often, and really try to time yourself. I think that's another big thing, and this goes to sprinting and the whole off season. Is time yourself where you're at, and then continually track it. Don't just aimlessly go through this stuff and see, hopefully I'm getting faster. One, having that clock, whether for us we have timing gates, and if you have lasers, that's great, but a stopwatch does just fine. But tracking it and being honest and seeing where you're at, and that's going to help push you. It's going to help increase the intensity and also it's going to give you feedback if you're making the right, no pun intended, but the right strides in your progress. And on top of that, and this goes to just overall like fall in general, I think you should be tracking everything. So whether it be velocity with radar guns, and this is something we do a lot of tracking with the med balls, like throw, shot put, rotational scoot toss, or overhead throws, whatever. We're radar gunning these because one, it creates intent for our athletes. Two, we're able to track progress, and we're not just like blindly going through the off season like hoping, well, I hope I got better. No, like we have something to focus on. We have a goal. It's gonna drive intent, and I think intent is huge. And I don't just mean intent like, especially on the throwing side, it's like max effort every throw. No, intent means like a deliberate, real high focus into something that you're trying to do. And if you do that, you're going to see success. And I think we see too many guys kind of blindly going through things. And whether it be your warm up every day, whether it be your prep work, your arm care, your sprinting, your med ball, whatever it is, do it with intent. Intent with a highly focused intent, and you're going to see results from it, especially if you have a good plan in place and you're able to know what you're trying to do. Like, I think just max velocity throwing or when you're not moving the right way, you're going to create bad patterns. So that's why it's not the intent of just throwing. It's the intent of having a focus on what you're trying to do. And that's where the carryover is going to be when you start getting into the higher intent stuff. So, and then with the med balls and the sprinting, it's going to create the competition. It's going to give you instant feedback. And I think that's huge. Like, too many guys don't have that instant feedback, and now they're just kind of blindly going through it. So that kind of brings me kind of towards the end. I'll kind of just recap the 4 things we touched on. But at the end of the day, the fall is here. This is your biggest window of time, and you really should be attacking it. And if you do that, you're gonna set yourself up for success come February, March, and that's the number one goal. Especially if your goal is to play at the next level, have your best season, play at the next level, and then later on play in the big leagues. It starts now. Don't say, oh, I'm gonna do it when I get there. There is no getting there without the steps you take right now. And we hear that I'm gonna train like a D1 athlete when I get there. No, you have to do that stuff now. And if you're not doing it now, you're not putting yourself in in a position to be a D1 athlete. So don't waste this time now. This is your one window where you can attack. And like I said, those 4 points that we're gonna kind of recap right here. Strength, right? You got to get stronger and make sure you're getting stronger. Make sure you know where you need to get stronger so that you can attack those areas. And with that, if you do it now, early in the off season, you're going to put yourself in a position later in the off season to be able to teach your body to use that strength at a faster rate, what we call rate of force development. It's the ability to use that force fast, and that's what matters. And so strength, number one. And like I talked about earlier, it's going to clean up so many other things. So that's just a low-hanging fruit. Body composition or strength, size, like if you need to gain weight, put a plan in place now, know where you're trying to get to, and attack it. Okay? There is no excuse for, oh, I can't gain weight. I don't eat breakfast. That's not an answer that should be in the vocabulary if you're trying to gain weight and this is like your number one goal and what you're trying to accomplish. 3, have a plan. And obviously all this stuff is having a plan, and if you lay everything out, you're going to put yourself in a position to have success. But have a skill performance plan. Like, what do you need to do throwing wise? What do you need to do hitting wise? where do you need to be at this certain amount of time? So reverse engineer where you're at and put a plan in place to help you get there. So there's no missteps. One, and two, you not like guessing. You're not, oh, I'm gonna throw live at bats this week, and then I'm not gonna do that for a couple months just randomly. Because no, there's no randomness. And there could be randomness in some to create some variability, but it's not like skipping a ton of steps. Okay. And last one, sprint on, have a sprinting plan in place. It's just like throwing. There should be a ramp up period. You're not going to go straight to max velocity sprinting. It's like have a ramp up period, have a month of, you're building up, or you're just focused on short acceleration, or other drills in place to get your body and the tissues prepared so that you can start to build up to higher intensity sprinting, build up the volume of sprinting. Just going to like a 10 by or just start doing flying 10s or something like that, or start going through, or just trying to run 60s all the time. You're not going to set yourself up for success. The tissues aren't going to be ready. So have a plan in place and go and then attack it. And it's just like the throwing side, just got to reverse engineer it, and you're going to be in a much better position. And last thing, just on top of it all, is track everything: strength, nutrition, hydration too, because that's a huge piece, and that's a main piece of your nutrition. You're 1 to 2% of being dehydrated is 5% loss in power, and can be up to 10% lost in strength. And so you lose that strength and power. That's the difference between 88 and 92. That's the difference between a warning track home run and or a home run. So don't let yourself be dehydrated, and make sure you're prioritizing that. And last, track your stuff in the weight room and everything that you're doing. The more you track it, you start to see trends, see what's working, and put yourself in a position to really have success. And you do all this stuff over the next 4 to 6 months, I guarantee you're going to see a huge improvement in performance. Your game's going to you're going to be a different player when you step on the field, and you're going to be ready to perform at a high level. And now you're going to make these big goals of whether it be wanting to play D1 or professionally, that give yourself a chance. It all starts now. Don't waste these next 4 to 6 months. Don't say I have time. Don't say I'll start at such and such time. The big leaguers, when they come home, they're going to get straight in here. Our minor leaguers are already starting to get straight in here because they understand the importance of now. You don't have time to waste. If you have a plan, it's going to slowly build you up into where you need to be anyway, so that it's going to let your body decompress, give you that ability to properly ramp up, feel better in certain spots where you might be sore, whatever it is. But your time is now. Attack this next 4 to 6 months if you really want to see the progress that you're hoping to see, and watch your game take this big step forward if you do it right. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope it was really helpful. I think it's really important, and something I'll talk to our guy Miles behind the camera to get this out as quick as possible in one of the next 1 or 2 shows, because you do the right steps now, you're going to be in a good spot. And so for me, you can find us at rossistraining.com or on Instagram at rossistraining as well. If you have any questions, please send them over, and we look forward to hearing from you. Talk to you on the next show. Have a good one.